make sure that I've got it taping so that I can make sure that I can put it up there. So we're officially recording.
Yay.
Welcome to our Thursday book launch. And today I know Karen's got our theme dance. There's our theme dance. And we're super excited today. Thanks, Joan, for to have Sandra Feen here. Her book, Meat and Bone. If you haven't seen the cover, let me.
Oh, there it is. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was gonna just put that up. It's an awesome cover, but the really cool thing is there's actually a story behind it. And so I will let Sandra talk about that whenever she wants to. But it's a very cool cover. I just am intrigued by it. So we're I think Nick is who you were waiting for, Sandra.
Yay.
Yeah, so he's joining. So we'll give him just a minute to connect. I'm gonna make you the spotlight video. And if people wanna read for open mic, just send me a message and you may do so. So with that, no further ado, we turn it over to you. And I'm just gonna remind everybody else to mute yourself, that's a good reminder for me.
Okay. Late night movie. I saw you again last night, only this was a different version. You were wearing that blue jumper we both had. We laughed and wished we really were twins. Sometimes in other episodes, you had friends and suddenly they disappeared and I was left with a cameraman focusing his lens on me. He told me to celebrate my graduation. Scene 2. The scene was set at my old high school football stadium. We were yelling 1981 all over again. Scene 3. I saw you, little girl. I tried hiding under the bleachers as you walked across the field. Your long, thick locks of chocolate art and image never changed. My hair was longer, wavier, redder than, and I had that space between my teeth, but my baby face is still the same. Scene 4. The crowd was rowdier, more rambunctious. 1981 was chanted in unison. No one noticed your lifeless, unsmiling face, your lack of participation. No one seemed to
Sandra, your audio seems to have gone out.
I suppose you feel detached.
Your audio is going in and out. It might be your bandwidth. Are other people having an issue, having a hard time?
Turn your Wi-Fi off on your phone and stuff so it goes to less places. So maybe it'll go to your laptop better.
Yep, that might help. So yeah. I turn off my Wi-Fi when I'm
turning my phone off.
Yeah, perfect. Turn all your extra Wi-Fi off.
The crowd was rowdier, more rambunctious. 1981 was chanted in unison. No one noticed your lifeless, unsmiling face, your lack of participation. No one seemed to notice you but me. I suppose you feel detached from everyone. Though your vision was blurred with familiar faces, the zest is gone for a year, an era you know nothing about. You were looking around as if searching for something, someone. I buried myself in my hands. Scene 5. Suddenly, unknown hands picked me up and sedated voices repeatedly spoke that someone wanted to see me. I protested while bodies pulled me toward a little girl with dark, deadly eyes staring at me. I was scared, defiant. I'm aware the last time we walked home from school, there was a big group of girls all chatting, giggling. I never did say goodbye when you turned the corner alone to go home. I am guilty. End of scene. The conclusion is blurry. I found myself crying in my mother's arms for the first time in 8 years. Only back then she taught me the Serenity Prayer. I have your 7th grade picture and a dozen from Girl Scout camp when you were hit soloist singing You've Got a Friend. I have a toy bracelet with a charm dangling of 2 yellow chicks and an orange nest that you gave me once for Christmas. Most flashbacks only haunt occasionally, yet last night's characters somehow jar old 8-year reruns that have yet to fade. I opened my jewelry box today, found that one chick's head somehow broke from my bracelet. I cried hard, like the time when the neighborhood bully took my doll away. Now, this poem has nothing to do with this book, and yet it does. It is not in this book, but I decided to read this because it is about a girl, a best friend of mine, who died of Rice syndrome at age 12. And I was haunted by dreams of my friend, and I didn't know why. I kept having these incessant dreams until I was 19, almost 20 years old. And I decided I can't keep living like this. I have to find out why, and I decided to sit down and use stream of consciousness and free write and literally write it out. And I found out through the writing that I felt guilty because in the last day that I saw her, we were in this hustle and bustle, and another group of girls came to see me, and then we separated, and I never said goodbye to her. And once I wrote this down, I never had a dream about her again. So until then, from the minute that I started writing, I knew that poetry is a part of my life, and poetry was always joyful and celebratory for me. But at that moment, I knew that poetry was necessary for me in terms of continuing my life and combating loss. And that was a very pivotal moment for me, and it helped me when I then entered a marriage at age 26, and 23 months later the marriage ended, and thus the fruition of this book, Meat and Bone. And before I entered this marriage, I also was lucky enough to read a book by Madeleine L'Engle called Walking on Water, Reflections on Faith and Art, and I highly recommend it.
The beauty of Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I have rural Wi-Fi, so I understand Sandra's dilemma. Sandra, we'll give it a minute because I think you've frozen again. Yeah, it's just low bandwidth. It's frustrating.
You've
Oh,
returned.
I'm sorry, I don't know why that's doing that. Can you hear me now?
You're good. And the last thing we heard was entering into that marriage, and you were talking about the book and how that informs some of your writing with Madeleine.
Okay. So she talks about the story. Our stories should never be written in isolation, and stories are able to help us become more whole, to become named. And she also says that the discipline of creation is to paint, compose, write in an effort towards wholeness and to help others to become whole and to find healing. And so my whole purpose in writing this book was to find healing and purpose in my 23-month marriage, and hopes that others could find healing in their own situations. Can you hear me? Okay, good. So I'm going to read 6 poems and an excerpt from this. And these poems are narrative, and they pretty much necessitate, for the most part, reading it in succession. So I'll begin at the very first poem, and we'll continue some sort of throughout the book. I'll start with the poem titled Refusal. She's home from college, a weekend sleeping in. Mom shakes her awake. Sam, she sometimes called her, get yourself all dolled up. Dad's young friend is here. He's so handsome, sweet. They teach history together at night school. Wake up. Are you kidding? Meet an old fogey friend of Dad's? Sorry, I refuse. And I did refuse, but a couple years later, I started teaching and began as a substitute teacher. And I'm just going to read an excerpt of this 3-part poem titled Meeting a Trilogy. 1. I am a substitute teacher after graduating college. East is the first high school to call. I'm scared and Mom elated. Her first thought that I really must look you up while I'm there. I've no excuse not to. During a class change on my conference period after kids tell me your room number, 132, I head there to introduce myself. I squint, frustrated I don't have my glasses with me. Surely the gorgeous man standing outside his classroom door welcoming students can't be you. Indeed, you belong to the blonde hair and blue eyes, and my interior monologue marvels unapologetically. Wow, your dad's friend. Your warmth and courtesy speak briefly to me. You're sure we'll meet again. And we do. And I'm going quickly to our engagement. And for anybody that's a little queasy in the stomach, I apologize that this poem is a little bit gross. This is titled A Day's Colon Blow and Morphine Shot. You think you will die in the parking lot of that luxury hotel. That is, die in your shit you unload as soon as you open the Jeep door and pull down your plaid shorts in the nick of stinking time. Will I sit in the passenger seat and close my eyes? Pray Key West cops won't come. Pray screams, gasps, and gags will quickly subside from the wedding party passing. They think they're going to take pictures. Bridesmaids, grooms stagger strategically on steps of a tropical veranda. The tighter I close my eyes, the louder you moan in the muck of your dump, and sharper the cries of shock, disdain. You have no idea what brings on this gurgling turmoil, violating your intestines, that exercise your steering wheel into a parking lot, not a gas station, but a luxury hotel to leave a dark mound of excrement in between freshly painted lines of space reserved for expectant mothers. When your bowels become a ghost town, the parking lot is too, with only flies left in attendance, feasting. We vanish before police come, hope no one records our license number, but we never escape your smell the rest of the day. It resides in the walls of the car, the seat belts, your arms, torso, fingernails, hair, no matter how fiercely you scrub back in our room at La Tida. You try to dismiss your ordeal as your stomach settles down, and I lean forward, brush my hair thoroughly since you insist I should try on dresses at the nearest boutique. I lift from the last brush stroke, hear something crunch my back. Like shells, it nearly knocks the wind out, sends a swift searing bullet of pain up my back, down my left arm to pinch my elbow and reverse its course back to target my buttocks. I don't want to complain, especially when your cologne still doesn't cover up the stubborn stench of that fecal matter. You sweetly say, taking me on this outing helps you forget. You bring skirts and dresses in profusion to my dressing room door, and I can barely maneuver them onto my body. After deciding to wear a matching green linen blouse and skirt that you chose back to the hotel, it is then that I inform you of the hurricane of pain raging under my shoulder blades. You insist I try to nap, but misery clamps me there with a vengeance until I can't get up. It forces you to pull my legs forward to get the best hold on me, carry me to the car, drive, and repeat, grip, lift, and carry me into the emergency room. I'm in a twin bed, leaning on my right elbow, keeping weight away from my butt that doctors say is swollen. How can something so balloon-like, so round know the science of growing swollen as well? They inject morphine directly into the left cheek of the bubble. It doesn't pop, but I yelp. And a 6-year-old one cubicle over pulls the curtain back, asks if I'm the one who just made that noise. When he finds out the shot is the culprit provoking me, he states matter-of-factly he's been poked earlier, hadn't uttered a speck of noise. The kid is cool, like he's been around and in and out of many curtain cubicles, until his mom accuses him of neglecting to make regular stops to the restroom, and his paper gown bristles. This comment makes you slink farther away from the kid, slither through the curtain to realign closer to my bed. Morphine creates a fog that allows me to breathe easier. Although less concerned about the needle reek of today, I'm reminded that you still need yet another scrub.
I think the title broke the internet.
And I'm going.
You're good. The title broke the internet is what somebody said.
Goodness. Yeah, I hope people didn't just like leave screaming on that one. This is titled Keeping the Veil On. It is a late October wedding. A long traditional reception of dancing follows. After tossing tradition down the aisle, I wear a backless, deep ivory dress. Yes, backless. But when we leave the reception, I change into jeans and a button-up red sweater to get to the hotel, but keep my veil on. I love the quirky looks I get from bystanders, and surprisingly, you get such a kick out of them too. 14 years younger than you, I occasionally bring the playful out of you, help you worry less about appearances, reject decorum. We skip hand in hand in the parking garage of downtown Columbus's Holiday Inn. And when we enter our hotel room, you see to it that 24 scarlet roses wait inside. I plan every bit of how I will look, be. I'll smell of red perfume that you gave to me last spring. I'll feel extra smooth to caress. I plan what I'll say, how I'll move to touch your love this night, our bed of marriage. You say, why not keep the veil on? But it is uncomfortable, and lying on a dozen stiff bobby pins is prison. I pull it off with difficulty, get up, prepare, return to hug into you, try to kiss you, but you brush my lips so quick and light, it tickles. I don't feel you fall, a deep, lush fall into my embrace, but a union begins anyway, and I am happy, but in the middle of your thrush, you stop. A major halt, the way one rides a bike free and clear on a perfect day of weather, but the front wheel meets a rock and I don't see it coming, so blinded by sun and breeze fuzzing my bangs. I brace myself, nearly fall off, and I gulp air, ask what's wrong. Your voice is soft, soothing. Say nothing's wrong, but that it is time to call your mother to make sure she is all right. And you do swiftly in quiet urgency as if common, earnest duty.
I think it went out again, Sandra. You'll have to come back to duty, to the earnest duty. That's the line we last heard.
Patient ends, hand me the phone. Say, it is my time to call my parents. I quip an incredulous, no thank you. Then when you ask why not, just as bewildered, I try to put a hammer to the head of my sarcasm, say without tone that there is no way they will want to hear from me. A call from me now will only alarm them. You don't press me or retort, but after using the bathroom, return to bed, say it's time to go to sleep. After all, everything is exhausting. I ask God in my head to help me with whatever I'm about to face as I lie in the dark with my eyes open. Okay, 3 more. Meat and Bone. This is the signature poem title of the book, Meat and Bone. You are my sweet meat, most often shortened to meat, a nickname I gave you when you introduced me to antique auctions and the time we heard 2 hours of vigorous bidding during one, dealers battling for Victorian porcelain sweetmeats, intricately designed candy dishes meant for sweet delicacies, pastries, fine candied fruits. 14 years my senior, I laughed, and you were my favorite antique, my yummy confectionery I always craved. You quickly satisfied my longings, dizzying me with your affection, filling my every romantic whim, your love notes, long, slow appetizer and dessert kisses, playing hide and seek in your house, George Winston's piano music glossing the background of candlelit dinners. I didn't sleep much, so charged on the cotton candy fix of you before we married. Just after, you named me Bone, and I thought it was because of the weight I dropped that fall, even though there wasn't much to lose. But I was beginning to fit into size 4s, surely because of our running 3 miles, as many days as you fit into our schedule, and you trained me to eat no more than half a sandwich. I cut off all my Rapunzel hair, as you called it, cropped it short like a boy's, just like you said you really wanted. But you said I had it all wrong. Bone was short for lazy bone, because you said my energy level was low for someone in her 20s. You couldn't understand why my body wasn't limber enough on your Nordic track, why I squirmed when you pressed my chest so my back went down to the bench, forcing me to bend back further than I could. You claimed lack of motivation made me yell, not pain, and bona fide laziness wouldn't organize all the labels on cans to face the same direction in our kitchen pantry the way you wanted. Rooms should be dusted and laundry baskets emptied in unison, and I never grade my papers fast enough. Despite your charges, I love my nickname, because even when physical affection left our marriage, the moment we stepped in it, I heard endearment in your voice every time you called me Bone, or at least its residue. That's what I told myself anyway, to the point that I wanted you to attach lazy to it and give me the full-blown negative nickname simply because I get 2 more syllables of vocal bliss directed toward me. So one night we had one of our horrible fights and I left. Instead of driving around for a typical 20-minute cool-off, I popped into the all-night Meijer near us, wandered to their small pet department, sandwiched between sapped roses on sale with remnants of black-eyed Susans wearing their petals on tile floor and a bin of baseball bats and camping gear. I spotted 2 plump orange goldfish, eyes beaming, almost unnaturally bright bellies as luminous as fluorescent lights blinking shopping guidance for night owls in need. This, the peace gift. The mug with the painted calico identical to our Sadie, Godiva chocolate and red tulips never soothed past stings from arguments. But when I came home, with my fists holding together 2 bright lives swimming in plastic, the bad cold you were brooding and chill of our unfinished business dissipated. Your eyes dressed a boyish hope. Like kids, we set out to bring the goldfish together in the best matrimony of glass we could find. In unison, we announced we'd name them Meat and Bone. I squealed in delight. For weeks, we nurtured the pair, decorated their meager bowl to commemorate their dominion of love. You were as tender to their care as you were to hunt for Sadie, who somehow got out without our realizing it. You searched in earnest. Your steps forged all sidewalks and fields to no avail, spent late nights staring out despair's window, hoping to spot her. And when she returned to our porch on her own terms a week later, you scooped her up. Your tears wet her head and whiskers and hugged her, me, as hard and long as I will ever remember. That was our first April, and 17 months later, the contract between us ended. Because you got a vehement no after asking for visiting rights to my cat, you insisted on keeping meat and bone together, and that was that. Calling hours. How many rooms rented for dead will call us to each other? Whether you speak or not, and you speak, embrace ensues, quick, formal, brusque as a courtroom conclusion. Only from that room you're absent. You can't recall the year we married. You think we married before we even met. In our first eve of someone's funeral, amid roses' overpowering death fragrance, you approach, shape courtesy for all to see, and in seconds I see through you, revisit an uninvited memory. Newly wedded, your surprise visit at work caged in my head. I loathe Shem's throbbing recall. It won't liquidate. Love, pride seemingly ardent. That classroom shivered. Another funeral parlor. I hug walls surrounding a fraternity of grief to avoid your notice. Nearly make it to that door open to life's air, but you abort conversation. Cut across the tears and sighs to tap me on my shoulder. I turn your stare, and a delicate yesterday cradles between us. I'm standing, holding your friend's baby at a party we attended, and in the center of that room, smelling fresh with happy parenting, you whisper, "Don't get used to this. You and I will never have a child." I blink back to current melancholy, to remark your hair is longer, as if I can't grasp the obvious. In your eyes, ask in breathless urgency, "Do you like it? Do you like my hair longer?" Nothing is vexatious, and everything is. There's no voiding myself of frames that saturate them, or now of tempestuous matter that levitates above our names, separate in guest books, today, tomorrow, visiting the vanished. But while years force us to meet inside more space structured for commemorating loss, an unconventional place to venerate jars routine. A mutual friend planned his own calling hours at his favorite bar, the High Beck. Then his motorcycle ruined his death untimely. I beat you to the maladroit play, approach you, direct this stage, having pre-rehearsed, in charge, say a little of nothing. I smile casually, walk away first, whole with epiphany, finally reaching the only closure that there is none. Epilogue. 30 years later, but there really is closure. It's called release, forgiveness. Thank you.
That was lovely. That was lovely. There's a whole bunch of comments that I wanted to go through, Sandra, so you could see what lines were resonating. And you know, you did so well, despite like the lag that was happening with the computer. I live in the country, so we have internet that can be very spotty. So the first poem was when people started saying things like, "Oh wow, 8-year rerun." That was from Christy. And if people have questions, feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask them. I did want you to talk about the cover though. That's an actual photograph?
Yes. And I noticed that Nick Maciosi is here, and he took this picture of me holding these fish.
That's awesome.
And Nick Maciosi is a poet, and my 7th grade English and 9th grade drama teacher, and one of my dearest friends. And yes, he went with me. As I said, I need to get a picture. This is the picture that I want. I want this for the cover. And he said, okay. We went to a PetSmart and we did it.
It's such a great cover, and it's perfect, you know, with the title poem, and then the whole, you know, the whole image that they served. Actually, I think Christy wrote down one of the phrases. Let me see if I can get to what was, oh, no, it was Karen, the best matrimony of glass we could find. She wrote, wow. Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Christy and I were typing in some of the same ones.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, move to touch your love, front wheel meets a rock. And then I said, powerful ending with my eyes open, and you were typing at the same time. Yes was typing pack to punch, or at least it's residue. That's another one that resonated. So Sandra, there was so many lines that we were pulling out that was enjoyable. And I wanted to go back to something that you said, because you said, you know, you saw poetry as kind of celebratory initially, and then when you were, you know, talking about your friend and the poem that you wrote to your childhood friend, you said poetry as a healing path really was what I was getting. The potential for working through stuff and then being of service or help to others, like combating loss. And so I just wanted to come back to that because, you know, I like that there's that path, the healing path, but then there's also the elevation that, you know, the art of poetry that you work in together. And so if you wanted to talk more about that, I love hearing about that.
Well, thank you. You know, I do think that, you know, art is obviously meant to be appreciated and enjoyed, but art is a healing tool. Once you put it on a page, it is cathartic. And it's, I know in my lifetime, it has absolutely helped me through a number of difficulties. I know Freud has said, if not but the poet is the one who's in charge of the subconscious. And the word poet is actually, the etymology of the word poet is Greek, and it means seer. And so, you know, the poet sees things at a deeper level. Not to say that other people aren't deep, but we do see things at, you know, there's a depth to us where we look for layers, and once we put those layers down, there is a sense of, you know, you just feel a sense of something has been lifted. I years ago got involved with the Ohio Poetry Association, and then eventually became the director of the Ohio Poetry Association and Poetry Therapy Association. And there, you know, all the creative arts do have therapy associations connected with it, where you can get involved and become certified to become a poetry therapist, an art therapist. My sister teaches art therapy at Wright State University. The arts are healing, and they can help people achieve that wholeness. I fully just believe that with all my heart. They don't always solve the problems, but they certainly help to lift them, or to help you find better enlightenment or understanding to something that you're grappling with.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And I know that there's a National Association for Poetry Therapy that, you know, does stellar work, not just in terms of like bibliotherapy, like reading for healing, but also writing and creative arts for healing. Like you said, art therapy, and there are poetry therapists. The National Association for Poetry Therapy does, you know, have a pathway to that. So that's awesome. I love hearing that. Did anybody want to jump in? I thought I saw a question, but now I can't find it in the chat section. So if I missed it, please say something, because I will not be able to find it again, no doubt. Oh, and that also reminds me, Sandra, I went to a mindfulness retreat, and they were like, when they were asking about, you know, what we do, I said poet, and they were like, yay, we love poets. And I, you know, you rarely hear that, you know, people don't normally say that. I mean, they might say, oh, great, you know, poetry, yeah. But I said, really, why? And he said, well, meditation is simply paying attention on purpose. And that is what poets do, is they pay attention on purpose. You know, if you look at like how Sandra built her poems, there was a lot of attention to detail, and then also the layers that you were talking about, Sandra. Your details that you chose had like deeper vibrations or deeper meanings that kind of foreshadowed or said or was part of the experience that the speaker was having at the time. And so that's why they said at the meditation, they were like, we love poets, because, you know, so much of what you do is paying attention on purpose. When you add it to...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go jump in, please.
Well, there's a wonderful writer who's also involved in poetry therapy named John Fox. He wrote a book called Finding What You Didn't Lose and Poetic Medicine. And he talks a lot about poetry. Homemaking invites connection as you're going through the process. You know, that you don't always, you know, sometimes I think we've all you know, found this to be true, that sometimes we set out to write something, and then at the end of the process, something else has been written, because it invites connection and discovery that we don't always know was going to happen. There's a spiritual entity that goes on and that takes charge of us as we're writing, and he talks a lot about that in his books. And there's another writer, Kim Rosen, and I highly recommend her books as well. Saved by a Poem, The Transformative Power of Poetry. And I love, I actually like to directly quote her. She says, poetry has been a place to go back to when there is no way forward. Poetry makes sense of things that are incomprehensible, or it makes perfect no sense of them. So sometimes when you're dealing with the incomprehensible, that's when it's time to go to poetry, how to write it.
Yeah, that's perfect, and it dovetails. And Poetic Medicine was one of the first books that you know, I got introduced when I was doing more poetry therapy groups.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah,
so that's awesome, and I love the quote of no sense as well. That's lovely. And I think there's you're talking about process then, Sandra, and you kind of gave us an insight into your process. We may have a goal in mind when we're writing a poem, but sometimes the poetic journey takes us elsewhere. And I think that that's part of being a seer, is not necessarily seeing all the way through, but being willing to see when there's a opportunity for another turn and taking that journey, you know, along with the poem.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
That you sometimes have to keep an open mind and know that you have to let go and be led.
Yeah, see, I love that. Let go and be led. That's a perfect way to kind of phrase it. So it sounds like that's kind of one of your processes for writing.
It really is, and I've been fortunate to have so many wonderful people to nurture me along the way. I'm involved in a poetry troupe, Concrete Wink, with Chuck Salmons and Rikki Santer. They've helped me. I think Chuck is here today. He's another brother of mine. And, you know, I think we, you know, poets are a real community of people who want to support and help each other, and it's just great. And when you do, you know, JoJo and I have really known each other a short time, and it feels like we've known each other for a long time, because poetry really does connect you quickly and profoundly. It's amazing how profoundly you're connected through poetry.
So, yeah, that's a very good point, you know, and also to poets, but also to poems. Like if I asked everybody here, what's your favorite poem, we would have probably more than one that we could immediately really talk about in depth. There's an intensity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's an intensity to our connection through poetry. I loved hearing the etymology. I love looking up etymologies, and I had forgotten that seer was one of the ones for poets. So thank you for bringing that back up. John would like you to talk a little bit more about your group with Rikki and Chuck.
Oh, we're called Concrete Wink, and we are the three monkeys: see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And it's kind of a silly joke that I'm the speak no evil, because I'm the one that really talks and obviously doesn't really shut up. So, but we've been doing gigs around for a few years now, and we're also part of a writing critique group called Bistro Poets in Columbus, and we just decided we wanted to kind of do some gigs together. It's been really enjoyable, and it's just another way to celebrate poetry when you get to do it with different people. So it's exciting every year to meet new people and to just learn from different writers. You know, I learned, you know, and my love of poetry was first cultivated by my favorite teacher, Nick Maciosi. I owe everything to him, really. And recently, you know, one of my newer close friends is Juliet Cook, and her writing is so different from mine. Mm-hmm. And she's just so deliciously rich with her images, and I look at her with envy, and I want to write like that, you know. So it's just so fun to learn and stretch as you're reading other people's work. It's so fun. And JoJo's so daggone young, and I don't know how he's written everything that he's written.
It was the other John.
Yeah, but she still had to say, you know, it's true. I think that what you're talking about, Sandra, is, you know, when we get to meet other writers and, you know, learn from each other and how powerful that community is. And I think about how with this Thursday book launch, I've been able to meet people who, you know, have these amazing books out that we, you know, it's not like we were going to Ohio anytime soon. So it's been amazing to be able to talk to writers from other places and hear your approach and hear your wonderful poetry. And I did want to say that Paul said, thanks so much for sharing your poetry and your experience and thoughts on healing. He had to run, but it's been great. And then Jennifer, she also had a lovely thing I'll have to come back to, and I'll get you the chat section. But she said, thank you for sharing your beautiful gift. I have to jump off, love you. And that was from Jennifer. I'm trying to find what she had written because I really liked what she said. Let me see if I can go to it. Yeah, she just put, wow, very powerful, love it. And it's kind of when you were, I think it was the poem you wrote to your friend, your best friend, because it was rated poetry as a healing path in art. So that was awesome. Well, I know we all want to thank you, and Nick, it's so cool to have the teacher that inspired Sandra. Because oftentimes in 7th grade, poetry doesn't seem like necessarily something we want to do. So obviously you were doing something right, Nick. And I have a feeling Sandra was, already gifted in 7th grade. Oh, good, he's unmuted. Jump on in.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't think I'd ever be able to come in. I've been half the session trying to figure out how to do Zoom.
Well, you've done it. You're here.
I did. I'm so proud of myself.
So, you are obviously somebody who she's crediting with really being an inspiration. And it's just wonderful that y'all are in touch and you get to see this poet who, you sparked that interest. That's really lovely.
Yes, she's brilliant. She doesn't do any bad writing.
And you're also responsible for the cover. So that's awesome.
Oh,
there we go.
That's a much longer story that really deserves a humorous poem, because what we had to go through was we had to buy a fish bowl, the fish tank rather, the weeds and plants to go into it, the fish food, the purifier. Our cart was full, all by way of taking the picture.
So what started out
Because
as a
they wouldn't
simple
let us-
task, borrow a couple of goldfish at PetSmart.
They wouldn't let us rent the fish.
And Sandra now has 2 fishes she's become very fond of. She said she would cuddle with them if she could. So it has a
That's
happy
right.
ending.
It does. Yeah.
And the fish are famous now. So really, what more could they ask for? That's awesome. Well, we're glad that you're here. It's nice to have that full picture there, Sandra. That's a lovely thing that you can tell Sandra's one of those people that likes people to connect and to draw people together. I can feel that from you, Sandra. That's a lovely quality. All right, guys, let's, if you want to unmute, we can clap since, it's so hard on Zoom. We don't get to see how enthusiastic we were. Thank you.
Woo, Sandra!
Yay.
Yay.
So much. Thank you.
We're going to head into open mic. I have Joan and then the 2 Johns, and then Christy will be reading at the very end. I'm still taping, but Christy has asked that when we get to her poem, since it's out in submission world, that we will stop taping then. So I will quietly just stop taping at the very end. Christy,
Are you,
okay?
Christy, is it the poem you sent me?
Yes.
Oh, it's a lovely poem.
Oh, wow.
I got to read it already. I was wondering about that because I seen you wanted to read it, or you talked about reading it. I was like, oh, I hope she does read that poem.
Well, you insisted, so now I have to.
I loved it.
Awesome. Well, now I look forward to hearing it. All right, Joan, I'm going to come to you and make you the spotlight video. And if you're ready, let me know.
I am ready.
Good.
Okay. Sandra, I pulled out this poem because of a poem that you read. Found Magic. He was a wooden block, a triangle with worn down points. I don't remember where we found Oglethorpe or who named him. Leslie drew eyes inside round spectacles and a funny smile in black crayon. We hid him in a shoebox in my bureau's bottom drawer. Oglethorpe was waiting for us the next day. We shut the door to keep out non-believers like our brothers. Leslie made up magic words to whisper when we touched him. I made up arcane ceremonies of obeisance. Puck was a tin of blue paint, popped from a child's watercolor set, a little dirty, a little used up. I spotted her in the gutter on Ranstead Street, behind Leslie's block of spruce. We dared not clean her paint. Leslie and I knew magic when we saw it. Puck and Oglethorpe, potent and complete, swaddled in white tissue from a Gimbel's bag, waited in their shoebox in the drawer. Incantations were recited with stifled giggles. Did we make wishes? All we had wished for was a sign, and it had been doubly granted to us. Leslie died the summer we were 15. An illness no one named stole him away, and I am free to tell our story. See us, hunkered by the curb on Ransted Street, dirty knees, flushed cheeks, dusting off our brilliant secret.
Oh, God. Wow.
Thank you, Joan.
Beautiful.
That got me crying.
Oh, Jojo. And, you know, Sandra, how lovely that you started off with, you know, you started that dialogue between poems and between people.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joan,
Awesome.
for doing that, for responding that way.
I love your glasses too, by the way, Joan. I'd totally wear them.
Well, since we're with you, John, why don't you go ahead and read next, and then I'll go to John.
All right. Oh God, the spotlight's horrible. It scared me. I'm gonna read this poem because Sandra told me I had to. Now I gotta find it. Okay, it's my newest poem, and I wrote it. I started it while I had COVID, and I finished it the other day. So it's called The Bedroom Box. I lock myself on the moon. My husband observes me through a telescope, examines my mouth, but can only imagine words. The whole celestial system guards us, because my breath is a meteor shower that will break through him. Packaging clouds in my body, my head swims in methane. I feel my skin's weight, but hang like a thunderstorm. A star collapses behind my rib cage, forming a black hole absorbing air from my lungs. I breathe deeper, trying to draw oxygen from the gravitational force, to transfer it to the blood, to be delivered to its locations. My extremities tingle, remind me of jazz and the saxophone, loud yet beautiful. It takes time to perfect, to hone the skill. It takes time to calm down after the notes hit hard enough you can't imagine listening to anything else. I perform a dance with my hands and feet. They won't calm down. The blood cells are jazz. I cough and discard years of smoker's lung into my palm. The black phlegm with a clear sheen, jellies and riffs in the unknown. And that's that poem. And I think Joan read some of it too before it was finished. Did I send you part of that poem? No, it was someone. I'm sorry. I thought it was you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing a new poem, Jojo, and that's intense. I like the description of your body.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I was excited because even this year I haven't written many poems, and so to finish one lately is wonderful.
That's always I call it the new poem smell. All right,
Yes.
John Stickney, we were coming to you if you are ready.
I wanted to mention to Sandra, first of all, how much I enjoyed her reading and her Crisis Chronicles book. I'm originally from Ohio, from Cleveland, and I'm a friend of John Burroughs. And Rikki was actually my editor for a short period of time at Free Times up in Cleveland, or it might have been called The Edition at the time, an alt paper. So anyway.
Oh, that's cool.
Plankton. In this older life, I am taking a supplement derived from the wisest of all creatures, the jellyfish, to improve my mental acuity. Does it work? My wife asked, but I could barely hear her, already several fathoms deep off the coral coast. Thanks.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh, that is awesome. Thank y'all are bringing the poems today.
So just a quick question, show of hands. How many people have seen a commercial for a product called Prevision, which is derived from jellyfish?
I had not,
Anybody?
but it doesn't surprise me.
No? All
I
right.
don't think so.
Now I'm
That's
going to
what
have to go look that up. Thanks, John.
Yeah, it's on television all the time. That's why I kind of inspired it. Anyway.
No, that was awesome. And I love, Sandra, so you see how you're connected in the readings and then also to the people. I'm telling you, that's just something that is there with your energy. So I have Kieran written down as next. I'm coming to you.
All right, I'm here.
All righty.
I don't think I've shared this with you guys. No, I haven't. I don't think. I hope y'all aren't sick of hearing poems I'm writing looking out my windows, but you know, COVID, what are you going to do? Okay. There's religion in these last afternoons of July, when the old wooden wheelbarrow is brimming with wildflowers, punctuated periodically by the visitation of bees. When a pause in the thrumming of hummingbirds is a deep green bowing down of the tips of holly limbs. When the brilliantly blue-tailed skank in the pea gravel is a flickering pilgrimage to a sacred shady spot. When the great horned owl has come down on tufted feet and scried in the dusty ash by the hooded fire pit. There is religion in these last afternoons of July, when the monarch butterflies golden rising up on currents of breeze through the shadows of hickories is the sound of one hand clapping.
As I was clapping, I was realizing I'm still on mute. That would be that sound.
That's the one hand clapping, right?
No. Thank you, Karen. That was awesome. And no, we're never sick. And I love seeing the art behind you. Is that one of your paintings?
Well, sort of. That was a group painting. I hosted a crazy poetry reading series in Sanford above an art gallery, and it was a really weird space. And the last one that we did, Onika Gaddis is a local artist, and he was letting a band practice up there when the store wasn't open. And so he invited the band to play after we had our poetry. It was so incredibly loud and crazy. So we had our poetry open mic. The band played, and Onika set this canvas up on an easel and asked everybody that was there to just paint whatever on it. So I got it. So it's
awesome.
a group painting.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
And I love the story behind it. Of course, Karen, these are always your stories.
Right.
All right, I'm going to go towards Christy. And Christy, give me a moment to stop recording.
Okay.
Or I can just, all right, guys. I just wanted to take a moment again to thank Sandra. Where are you? I've lost you.
Yeah, she moved to like the second row.
Oh, there, I see you now.
Yeah.
All right. I'm asking you to unmute because I think you're still muted. There we go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was lovely to have you here. So thank everybody for reading for open mic. Go and buy Sandra's book. Sandra, where do you prefer people to buy from? And if they get it directly from you, will you sign it?
Yeah, you can get it from me. I have copies. You can, I'm on Facebook, or you can email me, poeteach@msn.com. It's from Luchador Press, also in Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri.
Just get it from Sandra.
Yeah, directly from Facebook. Just get in touch with her that way. All right. Thank you, guys. Be well. And John, thank you for introducing Sandra and I.
You're welcome.
Sandra, it was so good to meet you virtually.
Good night, everybody.
We're letting know so I can go.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Be well.
Bye.